Good afternoon. Welcome to the 2016 Annual Emission Reporting Workshop. My name is Ali Qassami, and I'm a Program Supervisor in Annual Emission Reporting Program. Before I start, let's actually take care of some housekeeping announcement. I would like to ask you to put your cell phone on silent or vibration mode. Then the restrooms are located at the end of the hallway in the back, so you can exit out of the auditorium, but they are in the back across from the auditorium. In case of emergency, please use the exit door, which is in the back of the auditorium. In case if there is an earthquake, I would like to ask you to drop and actually cover your head and hold on to your chair. And after that, let's start with introducing the AER staff. I have Eugene Tesler. Would you raise your hand? And Don Hobbs. I have Tim Kubota. And also I have Natasha Mescal, our contractor that helped us to develop this program, the tool, reporting tool. Okay, let's go through what we're going to do today. The agenda is going to be, I'm going to provide you with an overview of the program and go over some of the important of the requirement of the program. Then I will tell you what is new this year. After that, I'm going to provide you with an overview of the reporting process and go over several of the most frequently asked questions. Then after that, I will provide you with an overview of the AER reporting tool and go over some of the features of the tools and do the live demonstrations. When we're done with our presentation, we're going to take your questions. AER staff and myself, we stay around after the workshop to answer any specific questions that you might have. There are also several computers in the front that for some of you that would like to test the program, to see how it works, get the hands-on training, staff and we will be here to help you out. Okay. Annual emission reporting is required under the state law and subsequently under Rule 301. Facilities are required under the Rule 301, facilities are required to report emissions from permitted and non-permitted equipment and processes. Facilities also required to pay emission fees for any emissions above reporting threshold as specified in Rule 301, Section 3 and Table 3 and 4 for both toxics and criteria pollutants. AB 2588 program. This is a state program. This is a public right to know program. It includes about approximately 177 toxics. Facilities under AB 2588 program, they are required to update their inventory of once every 4 years. AB 2588 facilities are grouped in 4 phases, phase 1A, 1B, and 3 and 4, but you should not be worried about whether your facility is you're under this program or not. Why? Because the reporting tool already defined you, classified you as one if you need to. Like for example, for this reporting period, phase 1B are required to report their quadrennial update, but if your facility is identified as phase 1B, the program is already showing you on this page, and you will be required to report the long list of toxic emissions. Exemption, yes, there is an exemption for small facilities, but this exemption is only for fees, but not for reporting. Facilities, small facilities, they are still required to report their emissions, but they are exempt from fees. The fee exemption is for small dry cleaners that they are emitting more than 2 tons per year or less. There are also exemption fee for small businesses that emit less than 2 tons per year of perchloroethylene, methylene chloride, or perchloroethylene. Your facility must be qualified need to must be qualified for being a small business. You need to submit your request, but the requirement is you have to have a 10 employee or less, or having $500,000 or less in gross revenue. What are we doing with with the emission, with the report that we collect from you? We use the information that you submit to us to develop emission inventory for both toxics and criteria in the basin. We also use your information to develop new rule or amend existing rule. We use your information to determine whether or not your facility is in compliance with the district rule. Also determine whether your facility falls under different programs such as Reclaim or Title V program. Lastly, we use this information to project our revenue. Who should file the report? If you receive a notification letter from us, you need to report, regardless of your total facility emissions. You need to report, you must report if you're identified as AB 2588 Phase 1B facility. You also need to report if your facility's actual emission is above the reporting threshold as specified in Rule 301. Like for criteria pollutant, it should be more than 4 tons per year, except for CO, which is 100 tons per year or more, and you emit any of the 24 toxic substances listed on Table 4 of Rule 301. If by any chance your facility was not notified based on your information, your facility changes that you have made in your facility during the year, your facility's potential to emit is above this reporting threshold, it is your responsibility to report. When is the due date? The due date for submittal is March 2nd, 2017. So that means your report must be postmarked before 5 p.m. on March 2nd, 2017 and mailed back to the district, or delivered to the district directly to the cashier office by 5 p.m. Reports that they are submitted after 5 p.m. on March 2nd, 2017, or postmarked after March 2nd, they are subject to surcharges and penalties. Where you should submit your report, there is a self-address insert in your package that you can use that envelope and send it back to us. You can also drop it off at the district cashier's office, finance. What is new this year? Nothing has changed compared with last year, except emission fee rate has been increased. For this reporting period, Phase 1B, AB 2588 Facility 1B are required to report their quadrennial update. We also updated several guidance, such as dairies and poultry emission estimation guideline for dairies and poultries, and the emission estimation guideline for liquid organic storage tanks. There are several other changes in other guidelines, but those are just clarifying the language, like editorial, those kind of changes, nothing important. All these changes you can refer to more detail of those changes in our annual emission website, which is, the link is set on this email for you. Few reminders. We have cases that facilities, they finish the report, but still they forgot to submit it electronically. You have to make sure that your report has to be submitted electronically. So after you're done, if there are errors, warnings, do the data validation. I'm going to go through it with you in more detail. Make sure that you get the submit button appear, and then click that submit button. If you do your report and you don't submit it, and later on you realize your report has not been submitted electronically, still you're subject to penalties. And another thing is, don't forget to include, after you submit your report, there are several worksheets that you send back to us. Those I'm going to go through a specific in another slide, but make sure that you sign your signature sheet and you submit all of those required worksheets to us in the self-address envelope that we put in your package. Other submittal forms, it could be other forms such as facility status for worksheet, which I'm going to go through it in detail in other slides. TAC and ODC, any material you use, please refer to the MSDS if they are using any coding material or material specification from your manufacturer to find out if there are any toxics associated with those material that you're using, and make sure you tag it as toxics when you're reporting your emissions as criteria pollutants. For combustion fuel, you don't have to be worried about the toxic compounds because the program automatically is going to populate those toxic compounds for you. So you shouldn't be worried about it. But for other material that you're using, you need to go look at the material specification and find out if they are toxics or not. And if they are included among those 24 that we have on table 4 for the facilities that they are not subject to AB 2588 facility program, and for AB 2588 facility, refer to your attachment that we submitted with your package. Starting last year, actually, you can pay your emission online, but there is a specific procedure for you guys to follow in order to pay it, because AER program is a type of program that you don't know how much you owe until you finish with your report. Then you realize, for example, your emission is so much, either you are subject to fee or you are not. If you are subject to any fee amount, at that point is you need to get an image or get a printout, send it back to our finance department. They're gonna generate an invoice. I have a specific slide for that. I'm going to go through it in detail. But when you send it to them, they create an invoice number for you. They send you an invoice. Then you will be able to do make the payment online. But before that, you have to have an invoice number to pay your emissions. Reporting process. For reporting process, this is the step that I would recommend for you to do. First, read the instructions. All of the instructions are actually stated in our annual emission website. Go to the website, read the instruction. It has a lot of good information. It tells you, for example, how to log in. It tells you the instruction how to use the program. It has emission factor tables. It has a lot of emission estimation guidelines for common processes and operation. A lot of good information is there. You can use it. Please go ahead and read it. I recommend for you to do that. Then after you read all of those instructions, you have to have your facility information. Most of this information are being populated for you by the program from our database, but you can go in. Some of them are hard-coded, like, for example, facility name, facility ID number, whether you are in Title 5 or reclaim facilities, whether your location address. Those you cannot make changes unless if you think they are wrong. You can call us or call customer service. You go and make the changes in the database, and next year we will be able to give you the most updated information we have for your facility. But there are other information such as mailing addresses, contact information. Those are subject to change, and those are, if we populate it for you from prior years, you may go in and make changes as you think it is needed. Then after you do your facility information, the next thing is you have to find out what type of a fuel you are burning in your facility for your equipment, stationary equipment. We are not talking about the fuel that you are burning in your automobile. So you have to identify those fuel first. So the program is not going to create a big list that every time you want to report for any emission from your combustion, you have to go through a big list and select. It's going to provide you a short list of the ones that you provided to the tool in the beginning. After you list your combustion fuel, then you have to define your emission sources. For some of you that you haven't worked with the program before, for every device or equipment, or let's say permitted equipment, the program is going to generate an emission source, and you have to define it if that equipment was operated last year. Was it shut down? Maybe based on the information that we have in our database, that equipment that doesn't even exist in your facility anymore, and you forgot to let us know, and it shows as actually a permitted equipment that is being operated for us for your in your facility. After you define your emission source, now you are ready to report your emission, but you have to have your throughput, emission factor, and the program is going to calculate your emissions. So activity data is something that you should collect before you start actually using this program. But you can play around. This program is so friendly. You can start working with it. You can stop anytime you want. You go back, come back again, and start. You can do partial saving and partial importing at any time you want. Then when you're done with all of your data entry, that's the time that you're going to go and review what you put in. You have to make sure all of the information that you put in is correct. It makes sense, especially the units. Watch for the units that you're putting in. Sometimes you may put something in gallons, but your emission factor is in pounds. So you have to make sure that it works. Instead of when you put your throughput in gallons, your emission factor should be pounds per gallon. So that means your emission will be reported in pounds or tons at the end. Then you make sure you upload all of your supporting documentation. That means if you have any MSDSs, please upload it for us. So later on, let's say 4 years from now, if we go back and say, how did you come up with this or that, you will be able to support it because your supporting documentation is there. Your staff, maybe the staff that worked on this report may not be with your company anymore, but everything else is there for your convenience. So you have that opportunity to upload. I strongly recommend for you to upload your supporting documentation, because after you submit, that option is not available to you. So before you submit, upload all of your supporting documentation. Then do the data validation. The program has a data validation button that you can click. It's going to go to the program and it's going to tell you the obvious errors. By obvious errors, I mean something that, for example, the field that it was a mandatory field, you didn't fill it out. Or there is an erroneous number that you put for emission factor and the program knows that should be less than 1, for example. It may give you some warning that go and watch it. But other than that, the program is not capable of doing all of the QA, QC that you could do before you submit your information. So make sure you do the data validation. If there is no error or any warning, that's the time that you can submit your report, because the button is activated for you to press. Submit your report and you're done. Keep your copies at your facilities in case if you need to go back. I'm going to go through some of the most frequently asked questions, and some of those, like what emissions should I report? You report emission from both permitted and non-permitted equipment and processes. What emissions you should not report? These are the categories that we do not need. Actually, we do not need to have those emissions: on-road and off-road, emissions from on-road and off-road motor vehicles, such as car, trucks, lift truck, construction equipment. Equipment that they are registered under CARB, California Air Resources Board PERP program, Portable Equipment Registration. Make sure that if they are certified and you're reporting the emission to ARB, you do not report to us. But if they are not registered as under the PERP and you are not certified, that equipment is not certified by ARB to be a PERP equipment, you do need to report. Architectural coding, these are the coding that usually facility are using for painting the curb, constructions, and is for beautifying your buildings and equipment. Those are not required to be reported unless it is being used as part of your operation, like your manufacturing process, such as window shutters or mobile home manufacturers. Utility equipment such as lawnmower, cleaner solvents, non-combustion charbroiler and deep fat fryers operated by restaurants and eatery establishments directly serving the customers. But remember, for those charbroilers and dryers, you need to report the emissions from the combustion, like the fuel, amount of fuel that you're using. But if you're frying some meat, and those emissions are being covered under area sources that you do not need to report to us. VOC exempt compound. These are the VOC compounds actually exempted under Rule 102. But remember, you don't have to report it as a criteria pollutant, as a VOC. But if those compounds are considered to be toxics, they are not. They need to be reported as toxics. What should you submit? This was the part that I was referring to. When you get your self-addressed envelope, after you submit your report, these are the information that we want you to send it back to us. One of them is the signature sheet. Make sure the facility representative would sign this sheet before you send it, because they are certifying that the information that was submitted are correct and accurate. Then feed to summary for sheets. These are for both criteria and toxics. Online submittal confirmation. When you submit your report, there is going to be an online confirmation which is going to be sent to you through the email. If you do not get your email, still it is available. You can go and print it and send it to us. It is on the report tool. I'll show it to you. And then you make sure to include your check if it is, like if there is any fee due, and facility status report. This form is being used only for facilities that they are relocating, or they go through the change of ownership, or they use some specific emission factor that they would like to let us know that this specific factor was developed for their own facilities, or there is a drastic change in their emissions. For example, your emission has been reduced by 50%. If you fill out this form, at least the staff won't bother you and tell you what happened, how come your emission were dropped but drastically. We know, for example, that year your facility was shut down for 6 months, or this equipment was not operated for any reason that you want to relay that information to us. That form is a good form to use. If you use this form, make sure to include it in your package. The online payment, this is the actually slide that I was referring you to. When you get it, after you're done, you know how much your fee is, you can print that summary form, or you can get an image of it, and after you do that, you can send it to billingservices@aqmd.gov. The link is over there. Attach it, send it to them. As soon as they see it, they're going to create an invoice and send it back to you. Now you have an invoice number. When you have an invoice number, this is the instruction you're going to follow and go and make your payment. You just go to our website. There is a link that I provided over there for you, but at the same time, if you go to AQMD general website, there is a line over there that you can use and then make the payment, but you have to have the invoice number before you start going there. And if you pay online, I forgot to say that make sure the confirmation of payment, you should include it in your package. Supporting documentation. These are documentation that justify what the data, the activity data that you included in your report. It could be anything, like if you have any MSDSs that they used and to identify the toxics, or identify the density or percent weight, you include those. If you have any source tests to justify your emission factor, please include it. You don't have to include the whole entire source test report, only the first few pages that talks about the source test, the facility name, source test number, the report number, who did it, the specification of operating parameters at the time they were doing the testing, and the result would be sufficient. And these are, I assume the first 10 pages should include all of those summaries. If you're using any SEMS data, it is good to include those SEMS data that you have. Any documentation regarding TAC emission factor, anything that support the activity data that you include in your report. Make sure those are the supporting documentation that we are asking. How long you should keep this report? Our policy is you keep the report for 5 years. What are the program support? All of the program support that we have, they are available online. As I stated before, you can go to AER website. Any information that you are asking for, it is there. If we still have online help and support, helpline, you can call us, and that live staff will be available to answer any question you may have. But this helpline is available until the due date. After that, you have to leave a message and we get back to you. Then you can also send us an email. The email address is over there. You send us an email and we respond back right away. AER reporting tool. Okay, I'm going to go through the important part of the AER reporting tool because first, may I see a show of hand? How many of you this is the first time that you're going to report your emission to us? Okay, not that many. But anyway, I'm going to go through this fast because most of you have seen it, have worked with the program. Some of you that you raise your hand, I'm going to go through it, but it is better for you to see it when I'm doing the live demonstration, then you would understand. Otherwise, it's going to be confusing for you and maybe you won't get the idea of what I'm talking about and we are wasting time. So for the sake of everyone, I'm going to go through this fast, but during the demonstration, if you want to stop me, ask any question, please do. This reporting tool is based on the device level reporting, which means you report emission based on each permit unit that you have. But remember, each permit unit is considered as emission source, and each emission source may have associated with a couple of devices. Like for example, you may have a permit for a printer, which includes a dryer as well. So you have a printing press, and at the same time you have a dryer in one piece of permit. That considered one permit, but two different devices. And each device may have a couple of processes. By saying that, I mean, let's say you have a boiler, it's one device, but you burn two types of fuel. You have a primary fuel, which is natural gas, but this boiler is capable of burning diesel fuel as well. So you have two types of process. For natural gas, one process, and for diesel fuel, another process. Then another thing that I want you to regard a specific feature of this, we always upload your permit profile for you. So when you're going to use our tool, your permit profile is uploaded for you. For existing facilities that they have used this tool last year, when you go to your facility, you put your facility ID and your PIN number. When you go, there is no emission source because you have to press the import last year. When you press the import last year, the program is going to import all of the data that you provided to us last year for you to update. And the only thing you have to do is update the throughput and emission factor if necessary. Throughput definitely, emission factors. Sometimes you're using the same emission factors. So you update those. The program is specifically considered of 5 main sections. These are for each piece of equipment, first you have to define this emission source. By defining, I meant you have to put them in different categories. You have to tell us what type of equipment is it. Is it external combustion? Is it a boiler? Is it a spray booth? So there are 5 sections that you categorize each equipment into. These are the categories. There are five main sections. One of them is you have to go first to the facility information as you did before. Certain information you're going to upload, certain information is being uploaded for you. Then you build your reporting structure. By building reporting structure, I mean you're going to go and say, okay, what type of fuel do I use in this for my equipment? You identify them. After you identify them for each equipment and emission source, you put them in different categories, 7 categories that we have. I'm going to go through it with you. Then when you classify them, then this is the time you can report your emission. Like you have to put the activity data. Throughput and emission factor are the only things that we ask for you to put, and the program is going to do the calculation for you. After you do that, you just review the data. When you review your information, you do the data validation, and check your summaries. After that, the program is gonna, if you don't have any errors or warnings, the program is gonna let you to submit your report. What are those classifications? 7 classifications that I was referring to. These are the ones. One of them is external combustion. So if you have any boilers, dryer, furnace, space heaters, afterburners, you include them in this category. IC engines, these are the IC engines that you have, like gas turbines and engine cells. A spray booth, as it says by its name, is clear that if you're spraying any material in a spray booth, you use this category. Your other use of organic, these are the material that you're not spraying and you're using it. You categorize them in here. Storage tanks. This category includes gasoline and dispensing, like storage, underground and above ground storage tank for dispensing, or if you have any small storage tanks, less than 10,000 gallons above or below, above ground or below ground storage tanks, or if you have any storage tanks more than 10,000 that you're using EPA program to estimate the emissions. You categorize them in here. Fugitive components, these are, they are not considered to be emissions, fugitive emissions. These are emissions from fugitive components such as valves, flanges, connectors, and these are only you report those if you are subject to Rule 1173 and 1176. Usually, if your facility is oil and gas production facility, refinery, or chemical plants, you are subject to this rule. Otherwise, you don't have to report it. If you cannot categorize any of your equipment among these, then you go to other processes. The program is going to give you different categories to select to report that equipment, the emission from that equipment. Process offsets, if there is any breakdown for one of your equipment or any process in your facility, you include it. You include the emission and report those emissions. In the facility information sheet, you just say that you're reporting some offset emissions, and then when you go to those equipment, that option is available for you to report your offsets emission. These are for shutdown, startup, offsets, breakdown, turnaround, and spills. Process emission data entry. In the worksheet that you do this process data entry, you just identify process, then you enter the throughput, and then select the pollutant and enter the emission factor. When I do the demonstration, you will see exactly what I'm actually referring to. AER tool features. This is something that you can read on your own, but basically, major feature is you can import from last year. So if it is for some of you that they are new, next year is going to be much easier for you because you can use the import button from this tool and you import whatever you did. So it's going to be much less data entry. Then the program gives you a specification, for example, for sorting. It has, for combustion sources, your fuel consumption can be reported in conventional units such as standard cubic feet, million cubic feet. You can put in the terms when you get your, usually when you get your gas bill, usually it's stated in terms. The program is going to give you all of the different conventional unit that should be used in case if you use the default factor for any factor that you want to use. Then it has permitted and non-permitted emissions are separated, and you see it on one page. Then you can add, remember we always upload your permit profile, but for non-permitted sources and operation, we don't know. The program gives you the ability to add those. You can add them and report those emissions. There are some built-in calculation in the program, like for example, for a spray booth, you have transfer efficiency, you have default emission factor for combustion. There are certain calculation, electronic calculation parameters in there, that you built-in parameters in there that you can use. Uploading some supporting documentation is there. For the facilities, they are using EPA tank program. There are very good features in this tool for that. You can do partial saving, partial importing for facilities that you can do month-to-month throughput, and the program is going to adjust it for you. You can, if you store different material during the year in one storage tanks, you're capable of reporting it through this tool. And What else? I think that's said. And then data sorting, saving of partial data. At any time, you can save your data wherever you are, and then you can come back and finish it. It has an option for GHG calculation. If you want to know how much is the footprint of greenhouse gas for your facility, you can use this tool. It's going to allow you to do the calculation. But remember, we don't save it. It doesn't go anywhere. You cannot use it to submit to ARB. It's just for your information only. And it's like a calculator for you. It has conversion calculator, and also at any time there is a help button that you can go to. It takes you to the help and support documents, anything that you may need. Now I'm going to do the demonstration, but before I do the live demonstration, there is a portion of this, the logging portion. I cannot show it to you because of the firewall and the security that we have for this building. I'm going to go through the slide with you, but use this slide. It's going to be available for you online as well if they are too small for you to read right now. Remember, all of the slide, the workshop presentation is uploaded today into the AER website. You can go through it and look at it. But for the login, I'm going to go through this slide for this portion. In order for you to use the AER program, you have to register. In order to register, at least you have to have a valid email address. So this is a page you're gonna like. If you go to an AER website, or if you use your cover letter or notification letter, which has the link for you, you're gonna get to the area that says AER Reporting Tool. You click on that link, it's gonna get you to this screen that lets you register. The first red box that you see over there, let me use the mouse. Okay, I got it. The first box that you see over here, this first box is used for the facilities. Thank you. This one is used for the facilities that your existing facility, you have a user ID and you have a password. You're going to go over there, put your user ID and password, and you register. For some of you that they are new, you have to go over here. It says registration. You have to register to this program. By doing that, you click on this. It's going to take you to the next page, which is a user registration. What it's asking is actually just information about you, like your name, your last name, phone number, and email address, a valid email address. It's very important that you put the email address. Some of you may have few, but remember which one you use, because the program, the only way we can communicate back with you is through the email address you're going to put over here. You put your email address, contact information, and everything else. Then in the bottom it says sign me up. You click here. When you click here, there is going to be, you will see this screen, user registration. In this screen, the important about this page is it's going to tell you what username did you use. Some of us, like me, I always forget what username I've used. So if I keep this one, at least I remember when I get to AER program tool, this is a username that I used. So you have the username, but the program is not capable telling you what password you use. This is something that you would know and you only know. So, but there is always, if you forget your password, there is always to go back and get your password. That's easy because you can reset it and do actually to use it again. So this page is very important for you to print and keep it. Unless you have a good memory, then you don't need to. Then when you register, the program is going to send you an email. It is important. This email is very important. That's the reason I was telling you, make sure that you put a valid email, because otherwise you won't get this email. This email is a confirmation about your registration that tells you your registration is complete, but provide you with the link that you have to click on this link in order for your registration to make your registration active. So if you click on this link, your registration is active and you can leave and come back anytime you want. What if you don't do this within 72 hours? That means it's going to be expired, but you already registered and it is it's being saved in our database. You want to go back, it's going to tell you that the email exists. You cannot register because your registration has not been activated yet. That means you have to call me, and then I have to go through the back door to activate your registration. So make sure if you are a new user, when you want to do registration, you have some time. Leave 15, 20 minutes so you can get out of this email back and forth, and then you click on this link before you leave and you come back. So you activate your registration here. Okay, let's say you register and then suddenly a week after you come back, you don't remember maybe your username, maybe you don't remember your password, whatever. Then if you remember, I was telling you, if you go on that page, there were 3 boxes. I can go back and show it to you. On this one, there is a box right here. It says, forgot my password. That's the box you're going to use. Click on that one, and it's going to take you here, asking you for an email address. If you put your email address over here, then you click on it, it's going to send you back your user ID, but still, it doesn't tell you what your password is because we don't know. Then your username is there, but it provides you with the link that you can click and reset your password. So you click on this link below, and then it's going to tell you what is your new password. You confirm it, you send it back, you click on it, and this is done. Now your registration has been complete. When you do that, then it's going to bring you, always it's going to be, even when your existing facility, when you put your user ID and your password, is going to get you to the access facility. This is the time that you need a facility ID number and PIN number in order for you to access any facility. So if you're consultant, you just have to do one-time registration. Then you will be able, if you have the facility ID number and PIN number from any of your client, then you can work on several reports, and you don't have to, you just register once. So at this point, I'm going to do the live demonstration. If you think there is a question that you want to ask me while I'm doing it, by all means, ask. One of the staff is going to bring you the microphone. You can speak on the microphone, and I'm going to repeat or answer your questions, whatever I have to do. But general questions, you can wait after I'm done. We're going to have a session for taking the questions. You can state your question at that time. Okay, thanks. Let's see. Let me set up myself. The first thing you're going to do, you're going to go to the AER website, and from AER website, there is a link to the AER reporting tool that you can click on it, and then it's going to get you here. For some of you that doesn't know where the AER website or the link is, it is on one of the slides. If you want, I can even write it down for you again, but you can even go to our AQMD website, and I just look for the AER website, and then through the search is going to get you there. But when you get to this main page, see, in this main page, you have a user login. I'm going to use my user login. Now, after I do that, I'm here, which is let me to use, like I have to have a facility ID number and PIN number in order to access the facility information. I'm going to use, let's say, I'm going to go first, I'm going to select a facility for that. I've done this before, like this facility, they reported to us prior years, and now this is the 2016, and they want to report their emissions. Why I'm doing this? Because I want to show you when you go to the emission source, you don't see anything, and you have to press the import function in order to see that. I'm going to use facility. Okay. You see here, in here, it tells you this facility, for example, has been notified in 2012, 13, 14, 15, and 16. If I open up let's go through this screen first. On the top, you will see like this question mark that takes you to the help and support. This is the place that I was telling you. It gives you all of the information. Look at this. If you go to the introduction, it tells you the feature of the AER tool and what, like for example, what browser you need, navigation, how you can navigate through this tool, frequently asked questions that I went through. These are general tips, common mistakes, how to get help and support, what to submit, amendment, and fee. Then regarding greenhouse gas, getting started, it tells you the instruction of how to log in, how to use the program, how to create update your user profile. It has emission factors. Look at this. It has all of the emission factors over here. It has a lot of emission estimation guideline if you go to to our website too. So it helps you if at any point in the report you can click on this and get help. This button right here, you can use this one to upload your any supporting documentation that you have. This printer over here, it prints the screen that you are in, only the page that you are in. We have a print option in the program that you use for printing all of the reports and every worksheet that you want, but this is just a convenient way of just reporting the page that you are in. Now, if I go to the first thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go and open the 2016. You click on this, you're going to get to this page, which is the home page. Like right now at this page, the top, always on the top, you see your facility ID numbers, the name of facility, and reporting year that you are doing the report for. Remember, this is good for some of you that you are working on different reports. So at any one time, you know which report you are working on, so you don't make a mistake. Then there is always on every screen that you have, there is a gray ribbon on the top that explain what is that home page, what is the description of this page, like what is this page entails. And the first thing for existing facility, you see import last year, the button is right here. But let's say, for example, I don't do anything, I'm gonna go and see what emission do I have. Suddenly you will see there is nothing. Everything is blank over here, and you think, oh, nothing was uploaded for you. No, that means you are an existing facility, but the first thing you do is you import last year in order for you to see the equipment. Let me do this. I hope this is not a long list, and it's going to start importing fast. Yes. You see this? It tells you that all of the emission source has been actually imported for you. Now, if I go to the emission source, if I click, and I'm talking about when I'm left-hand side. If I go to here, I will see that, see here, now you have all of your equipment that you reported last year. It is right here. Before I go to another one, I'm going to show you what this page, like it has, the tool has given you the ability to navigate different ways. There is going to be a menu in the left-hand side, and also there is a menu in the right-hand side when we start reporting. You can use any of them to start reporting, and you're feel free to go back and forth between those two. No, yes. Just a second so they can pass through the microphone. Who had the question?
On the prior screen, you had several selections. We did not report last year, but did 2 years ago. So if I was to select the 2014, then on the next screen, where it says upload, it will upload my 2014, not 2015 data.
Yes, it's a good question that you ask. Let's assume your facility was notified in 2014, and you were not notified in 2015. That means there is no 2015. Now it is 2016, and we put you on a mailing list. Now you are being notified. So you're missing 1 year. The program is capable of importing the latest data you submit to us. Like it's going to import for you from 2014 to 2016. But at the same time, you have an option. Some facilities, they have been notified, maybe they haven't got to it to report their emission. They have the 2015, but they never got to it. Maybe they still in there, even though 2015 is there, but it throws blank. For those facilities, they have to import from 2014 to 2015 and then from 2015 to 2016. But remember, the program is going to import, when you press the import button, is going to import the latest information that we have in the system. There was another person actually raised their hand too, right? Okay, I'm going to continue. So let me put another for, this is for the new, I'm going to select a new facility. So for some of you that this is your first time, you will see how it looks. Okay, I'm going to open up to 2016. If I want to show you just emissions, I'm going to go back and start from the beginning. But if I see you start from facility information, let's start from the beginning. This is new for you. So you see the first, in the left-hand side, you see facility information, building, reporting structure, combustion fuel, and it goes down. In the middle, look at this, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. It takes you through it. So you can choose different paths to navigate. And you can actually switch back and forth. It doesn't matter. And it says, if you look at it, at step 1, it says the start here. Right away, you know that you have to start here. If I use facility information, it's the same as I use start here. So if I say facility information, it's going to take me to, this is the facility ID, and it tells me some of this has been hard-coded. I cannot change it. Like these are the ones that on the top, AB 2588, reclaim, actually designation, reclaim sources, year, and but there are, this is location address. That's why these are hard-coded. But if I come to the mailing address, if the mailing address is the same as location address, the only thing you have to do, click this box. If it is different, you just type it in. Remember, every time there is an asterisk next to any field, that means that field is mandatory. You have to fill it. Otherwise, the program is going to give you an error. So I'm going to say, in my case, my mailing address is the same as location address. Then it comes to other information, such as next, SIC code. For some of you that do not know what it means, it depends on your operation, and it depends on the type of operation that you have. There is a specific code that is called SIC and next code. If we had it in our database, we're going to populate it as you see, we populate it for you. But there is a possibility some of you look at it and say that, no, this is not my SIC code, then this is not the correct next code. There is a link that if you press is going to take you to the website that you can search and you can find out what is the appropriate number for you. When you find out the appropriate next and the SIC code, you can type it in. Then industry type. You have to select, you have an option of different studies. What based on the facility industry that you have, you select the one that is applicable to you. Like in my case, let's see, I can say metal and alloy product. Operating, if you click, every time you see an arrow, that means there is a lookup table. You can select. What is this sign good for? Some of you, there is a possibility that the last year in 2016, your facility was shut down because of reason, or you did not operate any of your equipment. This category says that you are not operating, actually, permanently shut down, or temporary shutdown. You can select any of these. And then there are other boxes in here, like if you are doing you want to find out what is your GHG, greenhouse gas footprint for your facility, you click here. It allows you to see what is the greenhouse gas for your facility. Click here if your facility is electricity generator facility. But by clicking here, there are other information that the program is going to ask you, and you have to fill out for us. Check here if you're reporting fugitive emissions. Like if you're subject to Rule 1173 or 1176, you click here. But as I said, these are only applicable to oil and gas production facilities, refineries, and chemical plants. Otherwise, it doesn't apply to you. Check here if you're a small business, and if you have any upsets, breakdown, spills, and shutdown, you're going to click on right here. After you're done, It talks about the contact information. You put your contact information, your first name, last name, phone number. If you don't put it, it's going to come back and ask you, give you error message. I'm going to eliminate this, and let's see what's going to happen after that. Then it's going to ask you who is the main contact in your facility. If it is the same as up here, you just click here. It's going to copy what you put in the top and it bring it over here. Say the authorized facility representative. This is if the same as like the contact person. You click it here. It's going to copy the information. Average operating hours. Let's delete this. I want to see what information is going to ask me. And then you have, but remember, these are mandatory field, and I have to get error message for not filling it. Then I can say saved, or you can say next. It's going to do the same. Then it's going to bring you back to facility status, facility information status report. If your facility was shut down, when you click, it tells you what date was it. If you change of location, it's going to ask you for the new address. If it is change of ownership, change of ownership is going to ask you who is the new owner, what is the ID number. Change of location is going to ask you for the location address and the date. If you want to report that your emissions are 0 for this year, you're going to click here, or less than 50%, click here, because it helps us to understand why, because as soon as you click, it's going to ask you for, gives you a field that you can explain why. Exempt request. If you know that your facilities are below the reporting threshold, you can request exemption. But our practice has been that you have to show me for 3 consecutive years that you are reporting below the reporting threshold, and we check your emissions where we say that yes, your facility are below the reporting threshold, and then we grant your exemption, but after 3 consecutive years. You can use this section to click it and let us know that you are requesting that. Use of alternative calculation. If you use any alternative calculation that we need to know before we question you, you include it over here so we know that you use that method. And any other thing that you want to tell us, anything that you want to tell us about your facility, put it over here. Then I say next. If you notice, as I go, first I start with facility information, and now I'm in building reporting structure. The first thing is asking me, is telling me, as I said, you remember the ribbon, the gray ribbon that I was telling you? In the top, it tells you what you have to do, what's the description of this worksheet. But this one, I have to specify what type of a fuel I'm using in my facility. So over here, it says add new fuel. I click on this. It's going to tell me what type of fuel you're using. Let's say I'm using natural gas. And there is a high heating value that we put as a default over here. This is just information. It's not being used anywhere. We haven't used it, but in the future, we want to have a placeholder for this in case if we want to add something that we have to use a high heating value. Right now, it is not related to any information, but you can change it if you want. How to change this? Every time you want to change something which is checkmark for you, uncheck it, is available for editing. And then any comment that you want to put over here, you do. I'm going to save. Then I'm going to go back. I'm using also diesel fuel, so I'm going to select diesel as another option, and then I'm going to say save. Now, I did my combustion, identify my combustion fuel. Now I'm going to say next. Now I'm coming back to emission source. If you remember, for existing facility, there was nothing over here, and they had to use the import last year in order to get some emission source over here. For the new facilities, we uploaded for you. This is your first year. You will see, and these are all equipment and processes that we have in our system. There is a good possibility some of this equipment is inactive, but you forgot to let us know, and we forgot to update. And there is a good possibility that the information is in here. There may be some errors in it. But this is what we have in our database. If you want to make any correction, you have to talk to our customer service, and they make the correction. After they make the correction, then you will see the updated, but not this year, next year. Okay, now these are my emission source. But remember, these are all permitted sources that we have in our database. There are still, every facility, they have exempt sources, There are 219 exempt equipment. There are processes that you do not need to get a permit, but you are using, like for example, you are cleaning your spray gun with solvent. That is non-exempt operation that you have to add, and you have to tell us how much cleaning solvent you use and how much emissions are associated. For each one of them, you can add new emission source. As soon as you click this, I'm going to add a spray booth in here. Let's start with this. I'm going to add a new emission source. Come on. Okay. I'm going to say this is a permitted source. It's going to ask me for application number. I'm going to say this is new, and I'm going to say application number 112222. And then for we put a lot, the program provides you a lot of space for comment if you want to name anything. Like this is, I'm going to say a spray booth number 1. For me, this is good for your, actually for the facility. This comment area is good for facility to use, because if you have too many spray booth, if you have too many boilers, IC engines, or any other equipment that you want right away to know which one is which, instead of remembering the permit number, you name it over here the way you call it, and that way you just know what you did or what this equipment for. Then operating status. This is the one that I said for every emission source you have to actually put the description. You have to tell me, was this spray booth in operation last year? Not if a spray booth not generating emissions. There are some equipment that we have as a permit profile, but those equipment do not have emission by itself. Emissions are coming from the basic equipment. Fugitive component, this is good for the facilities that they are subject to 1173 and 1176. For those facilities, like such as refinery, they cannot actually report for each piece of equipment the number of flanges and connectors or valves, but they have it per system. So they can say, for example, for this equipment, even though I have connected, but all of them are reported on such and such equipment and device. Not in operation. If the equipment was not in operation last year, this is the place that you can do it. Shut down or removed, and duplicate. Remember, all of this, if you select any of these, that means you are not reporting any emission for this specific equipment. The only way that you report your emission is you select normal operation. As soon as you say normal operation, then the equipment is going to, like, the program is going to give you a selection, like what kind of a category is this equipment. You have to categorize it. So you go over here. For me, this is a spray booth, so number 3 applies. I'm going to click here. It tells me, is it the open spray? And say, no, it's a spray booth, and I'm going to save. As soon as I save, I have 2 choices. Either save and return to list of emission source, or save and proceed. I'm going to save and return to the emission source for time being. So I added this spray booth operation, and this is the first line that you see it right here. Remember something that I forgot to say. There are different ways to report your emission. First, you can open each one of these, classify them, classify your emission source. And then you can go back and report your emissions. Or for each emission source, maybe you have all of the data. You can say, okay, I'm going to start for each emission source. I'm going to select it, classify it, and report emissions. You can do that. You can do for some and not for others. The program is very flexible. Now, let me select one furnace. Okay, I'm going to select this one, a common one. The first thing you do, you press an open button in the left-hand side to start reporting. So on the top, it says the ribbon, the gray ribbon, you see here? It tells me what is this information for. This is for the information that you want to classify your sources. It tells me the description of equipment your equipment that we have in our database. It tells me the permit number, application number. If you want to name it over here, you can name it, like I'm going to say my furnace in cleaning room. And then emission operating status, normal operation. Then I have to categorize them. I'm going to press categorize emission. This is the external combustion, and I have to use the furnace, afterburner, furnace right here, less than 10 million. Let's see. Direct burner. I can set between 10 and 100. Okay, I categorize them. And then if the design capacity It's good for some of your equipment and processes if we have the design capacity. It's the extra information, it's not mandatory. It's just the field that you don't see any asterisk is not mandatory. If you want to put the information here for yourself or for us, you can. This is good to do. Now I'm going to save and proceed with the reporting. As I said, for every emission source or permit, the program is going to create an emission source, which is right here, and I call it AER device ID, and at the same time, it's going to create a process, one process automatically to report the emission. For this external combustion, which is the furnace, it tells me, it gives me that the furnace is 10 to 100 million BTU per hour, and it gives me the description of it. I open, again, it says open over here. I'm going to open it up. It tells me, okay, the first, if you see, again, the ribbon area in the top, it tells you about the worksheet. Then it says the step 1, process. It says this is the ES9 device ID, this is a reclaim facility. It has all of the information, but we have to select the, open it up and select the kind of a fuel that is burning in here. The type of fuel, I'm going to say natural gas, rule number 1146, and then I'm going to say save. It tells me, it gives me like a notification that all of the tag emission factor has been assigned. Like the tag are assigned for this. As I said, for combustion sources, you should not worry about what type of a toxic compound is being emitted based on the fuel that you're burning, because the program automatically is going to select it for you. You say, okay. Then step 2, I have to put the throughput. How much fuel did I use? Based on your natural gas bill or any type of information that you have that you know your annual throughput, annual usage was that much. I'm going to say 100,000 based on my natural gas. Everything is in terms. I'm going to select terms, and I'm going to save. See, do you remember I was telling you this tool, one of the features of the tool is it's going to give you the unit in a conventional form. Like it tells you, you put the terms right here, but it gives you in million cubic feet, and also it gives you in a standard cubic feet in case if your emission factor, which, for example, in my case, it is in pounds per million cubic feet. Then I'm going to use default emission factor right here. The only thing I have to do, click, and it's going to calculate the emission for me, the toxics and also the criteria pollutant. One thing that I want to mention, there are facilities that they have their own specific emission factor, like for example, for your NOx emissions, you may have done a source test. So I see very rare facilities that they do source tests for all of the pollutants, like PM criteria, like PM, CO, VOC. They just do, for example, for NOx, maybe SOx. But if you have a specific emission factor for all of them, before you do the default, you can enter it. But if, let's say, you can open up each one and do it, but it is easier if you use the default factor and make the changes afterward, because it creates everything. Because if you have done source test for criteria pollutant, but you did not do the source test for toxics, at least your toxics pollutant emission has been populated and it was reported.
You have a question?
Yes.
So if you're using a standard fuel, let's say natural gas,
Yes.
but you're doing AB 2588 this year, will it take besides doing the TAC calculations, will it also do the AB 2588?
The selection for AB 20, if there is a default, it does, yes, it does, as long as we have the default factor for it, it's going to be populated.
So it'll populate and do the
Yes.
AB 2588 also?
When your facility is actually flagged or tagged for AB 2588, the program always subject to a long list. So whatever we have, we populated. If we do not have it, you have to include it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I was going
One
to
more
say,
question.
So regarding the source emission factors, so is there like a valid period when we can use the emission factor?
if you have a source test which is approved by source testing group of AQMD, yes, you can use it. And the way to use it, I was going to go through it to say that, let's say, assume that you have a source. Did I answer your question first?
So like, assuming if we did a source test 3 years ago, can we still use that as our emission factor?
Even if it was 2 years ago, but if it was an approved source test, yes, you may. You can use it.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Something that I want to mention, we would like to get the actual emission or the most representative emissions. It doesn't matter if it is default, because if there is nothing, we use default. If you have any information regarding, let's say your emission factor may be even higher than the default factor, or maybe much lower than the default factor. If you have it and they are valid, they are approved, you may use it. We encourage you to use those rather than the default factor, because we really want to get the actual emission from your facility. Now, like this, let's say, for example, you did the source test on NOx emissions. So you have a specific emission factor for NOx. You just open it up, open NOx emissions. You see here, right now, I said use default factor. You can unclick it. You can say this factor is not, for example, 130, and it is 85. You put this one, but you have to tell me where was the source of your emission factor, like source test. So I select source test, I'm going to say save. Now, if you look over here, it doesn't tell you, for example, this is the default emission factor, it is a source test factor. So it changes. You can do it to any of these pollutants you want. Even for toxics, if you have any specific emission factor for toxics, just select it, deselect the default factor, and you can put your emission factor there. At any point, you can go back and look at your summary and see what you have reported. Let's say, for example, on the criteria, I have reported that much pollutant. Non-permitted, I haven't reported anything. Toxics, what did I report on toxics? Oh, you reported, these are the toxics that you have reported up to now. And if I go on a reference, look at it. If I click, it tells you the only thing you report is on P1 external combustion. So it tells you which equipment and what process. And the same for criteria pollutant. If I go over here and click on this, it tells me where is it coming from. But then you can go back to the emission source, go back again. You can always go back to your emission source. Like, for example, I did this one. If you remember, I process it, but I put, for example, I use natural gas, but I remember suddenly, oh, I used diesel fuel last year in this equipment too. Then I add another process, which is, it says combustion, external combustion, process name, you can say, I can say diesel, but you don't have to, this is not mandatory, but you can say whatever. Then you come back again to the process emission factor, process emission worksheet. You just open it up, start for step 1. It tells me, for example, how much fuel. I'm going to say I use diesel fuel number 2. What rule? 1146. Save. Okay, my tag is being populated. How much fuel do I use? I'm going to say I used only 1,000. But remember, the units are very important. I'm going to say 1,000 gallons. The program already gave me in gallon and 1,000 gallons. Then I'm going to say I use default factor. Everything is being populated. See, as you go, you can use different equipment and processes. You can go to the second emission source, and you can start reporting. But at any one time, you can go to the summary. You will see how much is the criteria pollutant, how much is the toxics pollutant. These are your toxics. How much is your fees? These are up to now. Your fee is nothing, actually. Basically, your amount of emission is very little. It's not subject to fees. You remember about data validation I was saying? At any time, you can click on this data validation. It's going to bring you to this page, and you run data validation. Look at all of these errors. It tells you, like you see, it says facility information. On the facility information sheet, these are all of my errors. On emission source table, these are the equipment that I did not even start. It's telling me you haven't started, you have to go. Let's click on facility information first. It takes me to the facility information, the places that I have to put. If I put my name, my last name, title is not mandatory, this is filled, and put 8 hours per day. I shouldn't have, then I go to data validation again, run it again. It clear all of the information about the facility. Like I don't have any error message regarding facility information. It's only emission source, which I click, of course, I didn't fill out the ES1. I have to go back and do everything about this. Is anybody interested if I want to do a spray booth? Okay, I'm gonna do another example, but this example is gonna be a spray booth. I go back to my emission source, but do you see how I navigate back and forth and the tool doesn't, nothing happens. You don't be afraid. You can go back and forth. Regarding a spray booth that I just added, I'm gonna say open. I already classified it. I'm gonna say save and proceed with report. The program is gonna actually create a process for me. I'm gonna open it up. I start with the step 1 again. Open. It says, I have a spray booth, yes. I select, what is it? I say coding. Then, let's say coding metal parts. Let's say I use electrostatic application. Type of material, let's say air dried, one component. You see, material description is mandatory. You have to say what material description you have. I'm gonna say this is from my MSDS 10 or MK, or the description of the, whatever the material description is, MK 100. You see, it says add rule. The program automatically, by selecting the categories that you're selecting, is going to tell you what kind of a rule you're subject to. But if there are additional rules, you can add the rule over here. If there is an additional rule that you're subject to, you save it. It tells me you are subject to 1107. This is the description of the material. So I have all of the information top here. Then I'm going to say throughput, open. Let's say I use 1,000 gallon of this material, save. Then I have to use step 3, criteria pollutant. I'm gonna report for VOC. Based on MSDS, let's say my VOC content is 5.2 pounds per gallon. And I ask you, where did you get this? I'm gonna say from my MSDS and save. See, I reported my VOC, but I have some, I'm sure that I used some pigment, so I have some PM emission associated with this material that I'm using. So I open it up. No, I'm sorry. Then I add new. Then I'm going to say PM. Look here, the solid content, if there is we selected the use default, so it's selected for you. If you want to change it, just unclick it and change it. You can. Then for transfer efficiency, if you want to use default, click here. It's going to give you the transfer efficiency that we have in the system for you. And if overall control efficiency, if you have it, put it in. You want the default, use default factor. And it tells you where did you get this. I'm going to say AQMD default. Okay, and this is your emission from a spray booth. And remember, you have to report your toxics. The list of toxics are here. Let's say this one has some formaldehyde, and then it tells me what emission factor. Let's say it's only 1%, 0.1% is formaldehyde. I put 0.1 pounds per gallon. And then where did you get this? I'm going to say these are based on the MSDS, and it calculates the formaldehyde emission for me. If there are other toxic substances that needs to be added, you can add it right here. After you do data validation, again, I'm going to do, still telling me you have this many sources to finish. So when you finish all of this, you get to print facility report. See, if you click here, it gives you all of the reporting. If you want an individual, you do individual, and you select print pages, and then you print it. Excel report. If you have so many actually equipment at any one time, you want to create an Excel sheet of what you have put in. When you select this and download this report, it includes everything you have entered into the system. It gives you all of the emission sources, the emissions, throughput, emission factor. So you have it in an Excel sheet. If you want to look at it, do the data, QA, QC, maybe it's easier for you to do that. But this is for your convenience. When we were developing this tool, facilities, they ask for this function, and we provided that function for you guys only. Report submission. Now, if you want to see here, I don't see any submit button because there are 12 errors that I have to take care of. If I take care of all of these errors, then I will be able to see the submit button over here. And when you submit, and this right here, you will see a confirmation, submittal confirmation as well that you can print, but it's being emailed back to you as well. So if you do not receive it by any chance, you can get it from here too. And also there was another one under the print option, right? Under the print option, after you submit, it's going to give you one of the button is going to be confirmation submittal that you can print. I'm done with the live presentation. Now we're going to take all of your questions, and let me ask staff if I have missed anything. Of course. Natasha from Ecotech, our contractor, would like to add something that I missed. Go ahead, please.
No, you didn't miss it, but we had a question about AB 2588. When Ali was asked a question, it was asked for combustion. I would just like to stress that the only toxic defaults that are built in are for combustion if available. So for those, when it assigns it, it will assign additional AB 2588 toxic. But for any other worksheets or any other materials of processes, even if you imported from the last year all the Rule 301 toxics, you still have to, when are you due for quadrennial reporting, you have to add AB 2588 toxic. If you're not familiar with AB 2588, don't worry about what I just said. If you have additional questions, feel free to continue.
Capture to report AB 2588, we're going to proceed with AB 2588 toxic chemicals.
Correct. You have to add all the additional toxics that are only AB 2588 toxics.
Regarding the import, I'm not reporting 2016. I report 2015. Let's say 2017, I'm going to report. So I can import the data for 2015.
If you report, you did not report in 2015, but you did in 2014, right?
No, I report 2015.
But you are not in 2016, and 2017, suddenly I notify you and you have to report. It's going to import your 2015 data to 2017, and you can update it.
So in case if I am AB 2588, I'm going to select AB 2588 toxic
You don't have to select. If you're AB 2588, the program is going to tell you you're AB 2588, but the report that you did in 2014 you were not as AB 2588. So it's going to import only toxics, which is for regular facilities. So for combustion sources, when you're updating, it's going to update all of those AB 2588
No, but
toxics.
how about the spray boot organic?
You have to add it.
Yeah,
You have to add.
regarding the boiler, we have less than 10 million or less than 2 million BTU per hour. Our boiler is certified by AQMD,
Yes.
which is low NOx.
Yes.
So I use always for NOx, not default. I use the rule base
Perfect.
emission factor, but other criteria, pollutant like SOx, carbon monoxide, I use the default.
That's exactly how you should use it.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yes.
Sure.
They have too much.
Regarding contractor equipment, so for the small one, less than 50 horsepower that does not have a PERB registration, do we need to report an emission for every single piece of contractor equipment brought on site?
Okay. The contractor emissions, it depends what is your the relationship between you and the contractor, what is your contract with the contractor. You are responsible as a facility to report all of the emissions, but if your contractor gives you in writing that it is their responsibility and they are reporting their emissions from the contracting work that they do in different places, you do not need to report. But if you do not have that, you are responsible for that emission that is occurring in your facility.
So even if we only want for 1 hour, we still need to report it, right?
No, I wouldn't be worried about 1 hour job or anything. Those are type of maintenance kind of a work, and those are exempt to be reported from
Okay.
reporting.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, he confused me with the boilers. We got like AQMD exempt boilers, so
Yes.
those don't need to be reported?
Yes. Remember, only the ones that I mentioned in one of the slides, those are the only sources that you do not need to report. Other than that, if you have 219 exempt equipment, any processes that create any emissions, but they are not required to be permitted, you have to report them as non-permitted emissions. You add it in, like for example, in your case, you're gonna go to the emission source, you add a new source, which is a boiler less than 2 million, but when it asks permitted, you just say no, non-permitted. Yes. Eugene?
I have two questions. First, I have several facilities that have not reported and have not received their PIN number. And last year, I requested some PIN number, said it wasn't required, but I would like to be able to report these facilities.
That's fine. The only thing you have to do, send us an email with the facility ID number. But the only thing we have to do, we upload your facility information. And then you can import from last year, and then you can continue reporting.
Okay, and second one, well, okay, we'll go on. Thanks.
That's too easy, come on. Okay.
The company I work for, they just pick them up to report the quinary AB 2588 plus the regular AER. How should I do that?
Say it one more time. You got the notification that you are AB 2588. and
Right.
The only thing you do, you just do one report.
Oh, yeah?
But yeah, it is one report, but the only difference with the facility that they are not subject to AB 2588 program, with the one that they are subject to AB 2588, you are exposed, AB 2588 facilities are exposed with a long list of toxics, like 177 different type of toxics. Regular facilities that they are not subject to this program, they see only 24 different toxics to search for.
Or maybe I have to see you separately for my problem.
No problem. Stop by after the meeting. I'll be
Okay.
more than happy to help you.
All right, thank you.
Sure. Anyone else? I don't see any hands, but please don't leave. We have computers in here that you can use, you can experience if you're a new user. We also have a staff that they are available to answer any question about your specific facility that you may have. So ask us, we are here. We are here for you. But thank you for coming. I really appreciate. I just urge you to start early. If you start early your report, we will be able to help you, to take your hand and take you through it. When it gets close to the deadline, it's going to be very hard for us to help you because because of the lack of resources. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.